All right, what I'll do is I'll quickly share my screen. Just give me a heads up on the chat when you can see it. Okay, let's go. Perfect. So here is my deck for the webinar. And let's hit present. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you guys taking the time on a busy Tuesday morning on the West Coast. So I'll be honest here, right? The first time I read the blog post on Google Chrome blog, my first reaction was gulp, right? I was slightly conscious of, hey, what's really happening here? Because we for a business which is all about push notifications, this seemed like a big update, right? But as we dig deeper, we were able to figure out that, hey, this is actually a great update for both businesses and the end users. And we'll talk about why exactly, right? In this webinar specifically, what we'll do is we'll cover three simple things, right? We'll address these questions. The first one is, what does this update mean to you as a marketeer? Second, how does it impact your audience growth rate, right? And third, if at all, and should you do anything about it in the first place? Okay, so let's dive in right away. Okay, perfect. So first things first, right? What exactly does it mean? What exactly is the meaning of the quieter permission UI for notifications, right? I took the liberty of picking up the GIF from the Chrome blog. So this is exactly how quieter notifications would look like or would appear potentially for a user on Chrome. So if you see this, this is for desktop. Okay, let's go back. Yeah. So now, for a user who is consistently blocking notifications on their browser, they would see this as a prompt and they would see this bell right over here. They could subscribe by clicking onto this and then opting for notifications, right? Similarly, on the mobile web, they would see a small layover like this at the right, at the bottom of the screen, and they would be able to click on details and then opt in for notifications. This is for Firefox. This is for Chrome. Now, this specifically is only and only would happen in two cases. Number one, if the user consistently has a history of blocking notifications every time they go on the internet, right? Or if the site in particular has an extremely high block rate. And we'll talk about what extremely high block rate means as we go along in the slides, right? Firefox specifically is treating it like this. So in case of Firefox, there would be a small bell icon on which the user would need to click and specifically click on allow to receive notifications, right? This is the way Firefox is currently handling this right now, all right? But the more important question is, hey, why exactly is this happening, right? Now, this is happening for two simple reasons, right? The first one is this. Over the last 5 years, since mobile became a thing, it has never been easier to send a communication or a message or to engage or to reach out to your audience, right? There is Facebook, there is Google search, there is Google display ads, then there is Snapchat, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and whatnot, right? And then you have email, push notifications, SMS, you have voicemail marketing, even that's a thing now, right? And then you have every single super app out there which is trying to provide you a platform to engage with users, right? Instagram has messaging, WhatsApp obviously has messaging, there's Telegram and whatnot, right? But what has not changed is that, in fact, what has become more and more difficult over the last few years is that getting attention of the user has become more and more difficult, right? Now, what really sort of needs to happen here is what has happened very specifically in the last 5 years, right? So I remember Chrome had rolled out the push notification capability somewhere in April of 2015, right? That was the first time when Chrome 42 came into existence. And that was the first time the web push notification API, as we today use it, came into existence, right? And since then, there was a massive adoption, which we saw. We started Isojo in 2016, and we were one of the early adopters of the technology and converted it into a platform. And then at the same time, we also saw an adoption by almost all the leading browsers. I think by 2018, pretty much Chrome, Firefox, Safari, Edge, Opera, every single leading browser was supporting push notifications, right? At the same time, marketers got greedy, and they did what they do best, which is when they see an empty space, they put an ad on it, right? And that is exactly what happened. People started using push notifications for ads as well, right? Uh, uh, there's again, one could argue if that's good or bad. All said and done, it's all about it's all about getting the end user's attention. But that happened, right? And now this, right, where we are in February 2020, and with Chrome and Firefox both proactively working on protecting the end user's experience on the internet from disturbing, distracting push notification permission prompts, right? So the question also remains is, hey, what exactly are we, in terms of the status quo, right? What should marketers be really, really most concerned about, right? Is the way Firefox is handling it? Is the way Chrome is handling it, right? It is sort of also important to understand that this, right? Chrome today has the largest market share, right? Chrome is based on Chromium, which is the underlying browser, right? Samsung Internet, UC browser, and Opera, all these three, and Edge as well, are actually built upon Chromium as their underlying browser, right? Firefox is actually the smallest. Firefox has the smallest market share across the internet, right? And then there's Safari, which, for that matter, on iOS doesn't even support web push notifications, right? So if you in principle solve for Chrome, you would be able to cover more or less 70% of, actually more than 70% of your overall audience, right? Now, here's a quick picture of which all browsers currently support push notifications, right? With Chrome on desktop, we're currently on Chrome 80. With Chrome on Android, on mobile, we are also on the version 80. The version 80 was released about a week ago, right? Whatever is green actually supports push notifications. So that's UZ browser for Android, Firefox for Android, Chrome for Android, then Chrome on desktop, Firefox on desktop, Edge on desktop as well, right? This is actually just gives us a picture of what exactly are we looking at in terms of the global adoption for a specific browser and for a specific browser version as well, right? Now, fundamentally, Chrome and Chromium are the two browsers which will be most impacted with this specific update, right? And here's how exactly, by the way, how Firefox is currently handling this, right? Firefox stand, and what I showed you right now, was very straightforward, right? The idea of asking permission on page load time is absolutely criminal, right? That's their stand. What they're saying is notifications are distracting, and at its worst, they're also annoying, right? And by notifications, I essentially mean notification permission requests are distracting and annoying, right? And this is exactly why they're now converting or moving to a two-click process, right? Now when we went deeper and started engaging with the Firefox team, we also figured out that their intent is so much more about interaction. Interaction with the website is what defines engagement, is what becomes the fundamental rule for asking for permission. What that means is, if a user has clicked or scrolled on a website, that means the user is engaged. That means that visitor on the website is engaged, is actively engaged. And that is what should give the website the right to ask for permission, right? So in fact, as a matter of fact, you can actually have the one-click opt-in on Firefox as long as you are triggering the one-click opt-in after a specific user interaction. The user interaction could be as simple as a scroll, a click on a specific link, on an image, anything that denotes that the user is engaging on that particular web page or that or the section of the website, right? This is exactly what is this exact change that we have already done at Isoto, which means that now on Firefox, you actually have not been impacted, because on Firefox, your permission prompts are shown only and only when the end users are engaging with the website, right? Now, fast forward to Chrome, right? Chrome has taken a slightly different stand, and they're saying that we want to ensure a better UX for the end users, right? Their premise was that the permission prompts are distracting and are disturbing the user's experience, right? And they're saying that, and they said that in their blog post that, hey, because we want to focus on a better UX experience, better UX, we want to modify or we want to introduce these quieter notifications, right? The question really is, what does better UX mean, right? As in, how do you quantify it as a marketer, right? Two things straight up, right? Better UX essentially implies a higher allow rate by default. Better UX also implies a lower block rate. Right? Now, what is also important to understand is these two are not correlated. You might still have an allow rate of, let's say, 10%, but that does not mean that you have a block rate of, but it can also imply that you have a block rate of 30%, right? These two are not correlated, right? So yes, so as marketers, you need to build for experiences which ensure both of these tick marks, both of these check boxes are ticked. Now, it's also important to get a quick sense of the current average or the sense of status quo as of today, right? So we looked out. So we looked at some of our data today, right? We currently push out about 35 billion notifications a month, and we deal with and we see close to about 50 million subscribers on our platform right now. And we essentially looked at three stats, right? Number one, how many prompts does it take to get a permission from a user for notifications, right? How many prompts does it take to get blocked from a user on notifications, right? And what is the typical acceptance allower block rate, opt-in rate for notifications on websites, right? And we looked at it, and we looked at these numbers for the standard native browser opt-in, which you and I see on the internet, right? And here is what we broadly, here are our findings, right? Number one, on an average, it takes 1.3 prompts to get a permission from a user, right? It's not 2, it's not 3, it's not 4. It actually less than 1, less than 2, right? What that eventually translates to is you will barely get a chance to ask the user more than twice to get a push notification permission from them, right? So if somebody clicks on later, right, it is highly unlikely that they will actually accept push notification permission in that same session, right? The next one, average prompts to get blocked by a user. again hovers around 1.34, right? What this means is you, as a marketer, you do not have a lot of chances. I mean, you literally have just one shot at getting accepted by a user, or by getting getting blocked by the same user, right? You really don't get, should you prompt the user again and again in a specific session, the likelihood of you getting blocked is far higher than getting an allow, right? Um, Third finding, and the most interesting one, is the average block rate on desktop was around 15 to 20%. This is for the native opt-in that we have, right? The average block rate on mobile is significantly lower. It was around 7 to 11%, right? Depending upon the user experience that you're building in, right? For example, a lot of sites add delay to their notification permission prompt, which actually results in a lower block rate, right? It is also important to understand that Chrome mentioned that they would be releasing Chrome usage and statistics report at the end of Q1 2020, right? And that is exactly what will help us define, in Chrome's words, a high block rate or a high allow rate. There is no numbers. We as of now have no numbers from Chrome, from the Chrome team, in terms of what exactly do they consider as a good opt-in rate or as a bad block rate, right? We are actually now actively working with the Chrome team to put together a series of posts on talking about best practices with respect to web push notification permission UI as well. Moving forward, now, so what that essentially means, right? Those stats essentially imply that as a marketer, you really just have one good shot at getting a user to either ignore you, allow you, or block you, right? What that essentially also means is that you must give the users full context, right, before you prompt the question, or you must let the user consume your website, consume your content, look at your services, experience the product at some level, right, which makes them comfortable with your brand, so that if you pop the question, they're not completely taken off guard, right? A lot of times we see that you land on a website and you are bombarded with requests on a specific web page. You're bombarded for requests for right from a chat bot at the bottom right of a page, to an email pop-up offering you 10% discount on the first transaction, to web push notification prompt on top right. There's just too much happening on a web page at times, right? And that is exactly what needs to be solved for, right? Something we must definitely work upon to create a better user experience, right? Now, the most important question, which I'm sure a lot of people have right now, is, hey, how do we solve this better UX problem, right? So what are the tools available, right, with Izuto, right, and in general in MarTech, which we can use to actually create a better user experience around this, right? Fundamentally, push notification permission prompt is all about three things, right? What, when, and how, right? What exactly do you want to push a notification for, right? Is that getting communicated with the end user, right? When exactly do you want to prompt the user for that permission, right? And how exactly do you want to communicate that with the end user, right? Let's look at this example on the left-hand side. This is a hypothetical site about, which talks about flight book, which is so this is a flight confirmation screen, right? And in this case, if the user ticks the checkbox on get notification for flight delays, they would see this. It is only then when they actually see the push notification permission prompt, right? Now, this is extremely contextual, extremely relevant, and the user has exact visibility on what is it that they will get as a notification from this website about, right? This is a great example of a hyper relevant, a hyper contextual use case, right? Obviously, in this case, the website is also promising that we would not send notifications apart from flight delays, right? I understand that a lot of marketers use push notifications uh, for communication, which is also promotional in nature, right? The key here remains: can you communicate that very clearly to the end user, right? And the way to do that is essentially so you as a marketer have three tools with yourself. Number one, setting up a very clear trigger on your website, right? Which can be a small button, a small widget, a banner, whatever you think is right, which clearly says, hey, if you're interested in offers or updates on a website, click and subscribe to our notifications, right? That's number one. If you cannot do that, or if you think that's too much cognitive load for your end users, for your audience, you can use scroll percentage as a trigger for your website, right? Depending upon the percentage that the user has scrolled on the website, you can set it up as a trigger and then trigger the notification prompt. For example, you can set up 50% page scroll as the time when you want to trigger the notification prompt. This is super relevant for e-commerce websites. This is super relevant for content websites where users are typically consuming or spending significant amount of time on a specific page to read or to discover what's their offerings, right? We already have the third one, which we already have in Izuto, is time spent on the page itself, right? Because the user has spent let's say 15 seconds, 20 seconds on a given page, you can just use that as a trigger and prompt the question and pop the question. These are essentially nothing but proxies. Both scroll and trigger are nothing but proxies of users' engagement on the website, right? Which is exactly what you can already set up. You can set up with Izuto right away, right? For scroll, I would recommend using Google Tag Manager. The time function, the time-based trigger can be set up in Izuto right away as well. Here is another example of how to use a click-based trigger. This, for instance, is a dating site which allows users to chat with peers and strangers. And in this case, as you see, they're baked in push notifications as an integral part of the workflow itself, right? The moment somebody is engaging in a conversation, the website asks them to stay updated with latest messages and asks them to enable notification. Slack does a great job at this. Slack allows you to enable notifications the first time you set up an account on Slack on a web browser, right? With Izuto also, you can set up click-based trigger notifications. Should you need help with that, feel free to drop a line, say hi, or go to the chat on your account and let us know, and we'll help you set it up as well. Right? Has some more use cases which we believe are super relevant both for e-commerce and publishers. In case of e-commerce, we have seen some click triggers which are extremely beneficial, where you can marry push notifications are. Number one is add to wish list. So whenever somebody adds a product to their wish list, that's a great trigger to ask for push notification permission. If a particular product is not in stock, right, that again is a great trigger for you to go out there and get notification permission. You could also use notification permission at the order confirmation page, right? Flipkart, for example, in India, uses gets asked for push notification permission only and only on their order confirmation page, right? For publishers specifically, they can definitely use triggers such as read more, buttons which are placed at the middle of a mobile screen at the end of the screen length, which allows users to expand a specific piece and consume all the content. That is a great trigger to establish the user is engaged, right? By the way, guys, feel free to put in your questions on the chat. We'll pick them up in the next 5 to 7 minutes. Another great place to put in a push notification permission prompt is the watch now button, right? As and when a user completes a specific as and when a user completes a specific video, that's a great place to trigger a push notification permission, asking them to subscribe so that they can continue getting alerts of similar videos or similar content from you from your website. You can also make it an integral part of the recommendation widget, right? A lot of publishers place recommendation widgets at the end of their articles, which essentially could be either organic content from that website itself, or sponsored content from like the Wool and Outbrain. You could also put in a small widget right over there which says click it or subscribe notifications, right? These are some of the ideas which we have in terms of which you can use as a marketer to drive more to create a better experience for your end user, right? Apart from this, I would strongly recommend watching the specific video from PJ McCallan. He's the one. He's a product manager for push notification for Google Chrome and push notification permissions, right? In fact, I would also recommend you guys to another example of this is of click-based push notifications is this. So this is a sandbox site which you can also check out. So for instance, on this, only when I click on this, that's when the push notification permission prompts up, right? You can, with Izuto also, you can set up such triggers as well. We have very clear help documentation around this, which allows you to trigger prompt only and only on a specific user action, right? Yeah, right. So yeah, this is essentially how this works in principle. Once I click on allow, this becomes green. Yeah. So this is essentially what we have for now, which to talk about how you can use push notifications. I would personally, so also what is important to note here is this, right? The quiet notification UI has not been rolled out yet to public, right? When we engaged with the Google Chrome team, they clearly mentioned that they want to, the actual update will hit the production environment in about 4 to 6 months from now, right? They mentioned that over the next few months, they'll be collecting data, and only once when they have enough data about how marketers are actually using this notification, how the end users are engaging with push notification prompts, only then would they be able to, would they start auto-enrolling users into into quieter notification UI, right? So it's something which will happen over a course of 4 to 6 months, right? There is, as of now, there is no direct impact on the push notifications. All right, so Jason has a question. Implemented trigger to prompt users. Your device, we currently have a time delay. Okay, Jason, let me just quickly show you how that works on Izuto. All right, let's look at this. I'll also show you how to set up triggered prompts as well. So right over here in this case, so what you could do is you can click on this edit button, and this is exactly how you can set up your time delay. right? You can also add an overlay and add tweak this content. This is actually a translucent overlay, right? You can give context to the end users right over here and delay using this specific checkbox, right? Right. So that's one. On the let me quickly show you custom triggered prompts. Yes. Okay. Customizing subscription prompts. Yes. So using this particular section, Jason, you would be able to trigger the prompt at a specific point in the user journey, right? This is the exact code that you need to use to trigger the prompt, right? So if you want it to be triggered on a specific button click, you can use this code and set it up. I'll send this link to you on an email in a bit from now as well. All right. Guys, feel free to chip in with questions. Hey, Jamie, good to see you here. All right. Cool. So we just sort of wait for questions. Okay, we have one more question right now. This is from Asif. Just 1 second. All right. So the question is 5 seconds a good prompt delay? How much time do you suggest? Okay. All right. So there is no one size fits all time that I would recommend to everyone I try. I think one important number to look at is the average time spent on your website by a user, right? And the average time users spend on a website before they bounce off from there, right? I would look at these two metrics closely and then set up the time-based trigger accordingly on your website. I think we have one more question right now. Hey, Jimmy, yes, we will be sending the recording of this webinar as well. We'll be sending the recording, some more resources, and also the slides as well. Thank you so much for that. Yes, all right. We have one more question now. How can we know if we are impacted by the quieter permission UI? Okay, so as of now, as I said, there is no impact of the quieter notification UI. Chrome 80 was rolled out 6 days ago, and we have been tracking this very closely. We've also been talking with the Chrome team as well. We, in fact, are now working closely with them to put together a series of best practices documents around this specifically. Right? We expect the query notification UI to actually be visible in another 4 to 6 months, as I said earlier. Right? All right. The next question that I have right now is currently we send out a specific number of notifications per day. Should we be sending less number of notifications to our users? Okay, so the quieter notification permission UI focuses very specifically on the permission experience, right? We also had this exact same question when we were speaking with the Chrome team, and they mentioned that there is no intent on governing the experience of notifications of the user, right? Chrome's intent, or all the browsers, right, which is Chrome, Firefox, Safari, are fundamentally solving for two things, right? Number one, can the permission experience become better for the end users? And number two, if the users feel irritated with the content notification, can they opt out easily from notifications, right? So if you see on Chrome for Android as well, people are able to opt out very, very comfortably by just swiping right and clicking on settings and then unsubscribe, right? Something very similar is also possible on Windows on desktop, right? Something very similar is also possible on Chrome on Mac OS, right? So they have made these two things, which is subscription and unsubscription, extremely user-friendly and extremely simple unlike email, for instance, right? In case of email, subscribing to emails can be a big a big pain, right? Because users are supposed to give in their email, and then they're supposed to, go to their inbox, open their inbox, open the email, click on the verify button, land on the page, and then confirm, right? With push notifications, the users have a lot more control in terms of what exactly do they want to opt in for, what do they want to opt out for, right? And we'll see, and I think over the next 12 months, we'll see browsers, focusing a lot more on these two things, but nothing really on the number of notifications that you can send, or the volume of notifications that you can send out to your audience. Right. Michael has a question here. Based on the previous question, if the average time spent on the site is 1 minute, how long would you set the time prompt delay? All right, great question, Michael. I think I remember you have a blog, right? AfricaFree.com. I would consider setting something in between 10 to 30 seconds, because that's about enough time for a user to experience or to consume some of the content which you have written on the website. Enough for them to scroll, enough for them to visualize and sort of build some sort of resonance with the brand, right? I would start with that, and then try out different things as well. I just saw Jason raising his hand as well. Jason, did you raise a hand? Sorry. All right, Michael. Thanks for that. That was fast. Hi, Amar. Did you mention something? Did I miss your question? All right, Jason. Thank you so much for that. Amar, if you have a question, feel free to type in. Otherwise, feel free to drop me a line. I'll just put out my email ID as well for you guys. That's my email ID. Okay, cool. So if you're all set, I think we'll wrap it up right away. That saves us about 15 minutes at least, right? All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you guys taking the time. I hope this was of value. We'll obviously keep you posted on how this, as and when we hear from the browser teams. We're now actually working very closely with both Chrome and Firefox teams to sort of ensure that we're able to enroll some of our select customers in private betas and ensure that we're able to get first access to information, so that we're the first ones to react and manage this for you guys. Okay, thank you so much for joining in. Really appreciate it. Take care. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye. Cheers.